Have you ever sat down at a computer and started writing stuff for an essay and just wrote sentences and then maybe indented a paragraph here or there and just copied and pasted some information in and then went down a little bit and kept typing words, hoping for the best, figuring, I'm typing all this stuff out. Something's bound to get to the point. I have, but I realized at one point that I was expecting nothing of myself. What I was doing was I was overwhelmed, and so I was thinking, since I don't know what I'm doing, I'm just going to do a whole bunch of that and hope that something hits home. Well, then I learned to become friends with outlining, and I don't know how to do anything without an outline now. Let me walk you through the process. Just stay with me while we go through this process. I don't have anything more relevant, so let's go over the essay that I wrote, that I went through the same process that you'll be going through. And you can see it's a long essay with pictures and graphs and things, and it's a very long essay. Lots and lots of citations, and that looks kind of overwhelming a little bit until we take a look at the strategy. This was the basic sectional outline for that entire essay. And what I like to do when I'm working out a strategy outline is I like to work the thesis statement right up here. It's not going to go in the first sentence, but I like to work that out while I'm going through the strategy process. Okay, so I organized this in sections. First section is to lay out the factual basis for this theory. The next sections are the actual meat and potatoes of the essay. First, from the tipping point, and second, the spiritual theory. After that, there's the conclusion, followed by an afterword. You won't necessarily be doing an afterword in what you write. It just depends on what your topic is and what you are writing about. Okay, so that's it. That's the basic outline strategy. And you think, okay, so that's it? No, that's not it. That was a starting place. And then I filled in information here. And the final outline that I had wasn't pretty, but everything was there. Let me just show you what this looked like when the outline was filled out. I know this looks messy, but it's really not messy. What are these color codes? These color codes are whenever I actually put the information in the essay, I highlighted it to show that it was gone. And that way I didn't repeat information that I already listed. I hate that feeling. I'm typing along on an essay and I think, didn't I just say this? Didn't I already use this quote from somebody? Well, if in my outline I have it highlighted, then no, I know I'm okay. This was the thesis statement. Now, for that essay, and you saw that that essay is a really long essay, it became obvious that the introduction was going to have to be more than one paragraph because there was too much foundation to be laid for one paragraph. Look how long it would have been. So that's when we did the introduction as Roman numeral 1. A is one paragraph, B is one paragraph, and C is one paragraph that contains the thesis statement. And then it goes on from there, and you can see where I use material. I have information that I don't use that's in there that's organized. So I would get a piece of information, think, where would that fit? Where does that fit into the whole thing? And I'd paste it into the outline where I knew it was going to end up going. Okay? So let's look at how we set up an outline for your project, which is going to be far less elaborate and far more organized and easy to organize. Let's look at that together. Here's my little fresh paper. First, I'm going to start with Times New Roman, 12 font. There we go. Now, next thing I want to set up is double spaced. And now I'm ready to set up my outline. First, I need to title the document. Next, here I am over at the margin, and I'm going to set up the outline. And this is the outline that I'm going to use. I want a Roman numeral for the main heading, a capital letter for the heading, the detailed information, then a 1 if I need it, if I'm adding more information in there, and so on down the little multi-level. So I'm going to click that. That's going to be my format, and it's going to start that right there. Okay, I started this just using the margin and then clicking the tab button on the keyboard, and I'm just doing something super general. I like to start an essay with a reason why I'm writing this essay. And of course, because this is college level, we don't want to write, I picked this topic because. No, we want to say something more charming. We want to say, I have been interested in whatever the topic is since whatever. And then the 1 explains exactly why I've been interested. A very short sentence about an event that happened and how I felt about that event or whatever. But do you see that? This is the first sentence or two in the introduction. Next is as I study, what am I studying about this? The historical context or what? For just general purposes. As I study new research on whatever this topic is, I'm interested in new findings about whatever. Let's say it's stem cell research. I study research on stem cell research, and I'm interested in the new technology uses of whatever. Next, and that's going to be 1 sentence generally, 2 at the most. And now we have thesis sentence right there. And the thesis sentence indicates this information. The new finding suggests that new stem cell research uses are 1, 2, and 3. And that's my thesis statement. That tells the reader that the first section is going to be this thing. The next section of the essay is going to be this thing. And the third section of the essay is going to be this thing. Who can tell me what comes next on this list of A, B, C? There's a D. What is it? See, I just hit enter. D. Remember what that is? That's right. It's a transition sentence. We don't just end it there. We write a sentence that transitions the reader from the introduction to this first point. Okay? Actually, it's going to transition the student or the reader to this findings situation. We need to define our terms, and that's my departure from the standard 5-point essay, is I believe the second section of every essay needs to be defining terms. What if your reader really doesn't know anything about stem cells or whatever you're writing about? So we have a transition sentence there. Now I'm going to hit enter, backspace, and I'm ready for the next section. And the next section is always definition of terms, so that the reader in the next paragraph gets to know exactly what I'm talking about. When you think about the definition of terms section, what you want to think about is, what does the reader need to know? You can assume that the reader is of average to high intelligence, and you can assume that the reader has perhaps heard the word before. But now you need to let the reader know whatever they need to know in order for them to understand where you're going to be taking them on this journey that you're going to write for your position paper. So I just put down some things that I include. You will come up with your own, obviously. But I have, okay, so a key term, a definition of sorts. What's the factual foundation for my research and that kind of thing? And what are the 3 points to be made? 1, 2, and 3. And any information that the reader needs to know to understand that. It's a nice little paragraph, about 8 or 9 sentences, and it gives the reader whatever background the reader needs. An image is always nice in the definition of terms section, so that a picture works 1,000 words. Never a logo. A logo doesn't teach the reader anything, but showing people in motion doing the actual thing that you're talking about. Okay, what's this last sentence? That's right, it's a transition sentence. And what are we going to be transferring the reader to? That's right, we are transferring to the very first point of the essay. And we hit enter, and that takes us all the way back to the margin. 1, 2, 3, that's where we are. And then hit tab. Now we're ready for section 1, and that's going to be point number 1. Point number 1 was right here. And this is where we're going to expand on that, and we're going to do the same process. And we'll have a formula going forward to evaluate each one of these 3 items. And I'm going to put down for you the formula that I like best. You choose a formula that works for you, but it's the same each time. Be right back. Now you will find other approaches to organizing each point of your essay. This is my favorite point because it leads to a position paper rather than just a research paper. So I start with where did the idea, concept, research, need, organization, whatever it is, where did it start? What's the foundation? Next, what does the creator of that particular point of view want me to believe, deny, support, etc.? What facts does the creator of this idea use to establish their point? And the most important aspect that makes this a position paper is where I say, how does my own research agree or disagree or differ from this concept, idea, research, organization? I'm going to give you a perfect example. You ready? Okay, take a nice deep breath, take a sip of your coffee, and just listen to me. I love Alaska, used to live there, absolutely love it. Went back many years ago. There was a spruce beetle problem that was attacking these forests in Alaska. And Alaska has the most gargantuan forest system you can possibly imagine. And the spruce beetle was just eating away at these trees. Now, one group of people said we must spray these trees with insecticides so that they don't catch on fire. So that organization used foundation materials to say, we want support in spraying these trees with chemicals to keep the spruce beetles from attacking the trees. They used facts about how much land would be destroyed if the spruce beetles were allowed to just run rampant. Now, I looked at this controversy about this organization, and I did my own research, and I found a different organization that had a different point of view. And I wanted to explore what that point of view had to say, and all I laid out in this point was, yes, I see what you want to do about this, but I found something completely different, and I find their research to be valid. So now what's E going to be? This is the last sentence in this section. The section is probably going to be 2-3 paragraphs. Each paragraph is 8 or 9 sentences. We want to break this up so that we have this in organized paragraphs, and no paragraph is 2.5 pages long. That's the beauty of an outline. Okay, what's E? That's right. We're going to transition. And what are we going to transition to in this particular example that I'm giving you? That's right. We're going to look at what this other organization has to say. And because this formula is always going to be the same, I'm going to copy it. The information is going to be different, but the organization is always going to be the same. Okay? So, this section would be the PETA people. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the PETA people, but they are really alive and well. Alaska has so many groups of environmentalists and scientists. It's incredible because the state's just, it's the size of it's huge. So in this section, I'm going to evaluate what these people said. Go down and listen to them, and what they said was, let the spruce beetles go. It's nature's way of deforestation. The spruce beetles will eat up the spruce trees. A fire will then combust, burning down that forest and making way for new trees. Leave them alone. Stop spraying chemicals in our forests because you don't know what's supposed to be happening. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to have quotes from them, and I'm going to have interviews with them, and I'm going to have information about how they believe. And then I'm going to say, okay, well, now I looked at this PETA organization, and I see some positives and some negatives in what they do. This is probably going to be a couple paragraphs here. I see some pluses and minuses in the way that they handle environmental situations, and I'm not altogether sure. But then I found a third group who had a third way of dealing with this problem, and that's going to be my next section. So I'm going to transition to that next possibility. Okay, and the formula is exactly the same. The information that I put in there will change and be different, and I can't just copy and paste and turn that in and expect credit. That doesn't show any detail at all. It's just a copy of a template. The third group of people said, chop down the forest. This will give the spruce beetle nothing more to eat. The spruce beetle will absolutely take care of itself because it won't have anything to feed on. And you can chop down that forest and use the forest wood for whatever. Okay, so I make paper or whatever they do. So now I have in my essay developed 3 different opinions about the problem, deforestation in Alaska. And now I come down to the next paragraph. What's the transition since it's going to be to now, since I've already covered my 3 points? That's right. I'm going to transition to the conclusion. Now, many people make the habit of, in conclusion, just putting conclusion and being done with it. And I always know when that happens because the conclusion is just a hodgepodge of stuff. So in the conclusion, what I've done is I've researched all of these 3 positions, and I have saved information that I didn't use. And that information is still in my outline in here. I haven't highlighted it because I didn't need it for the essay. And each one of those little things I can put into the conclusion. So I have some nice material left for the conclusion. And when I complete that conclusion, that will be the end of my essay. And that is how an outline, a detailed outline, is created. That concludes this tutorial.